morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where after a couple of painfully slow movie news days, I am happy to report that I have been able to put together a particularly strong episode for you today, anchored by not just one, but two amazing movie news stories. In fact, I wasn't sure which one to put first, which I usually feel is the biggest story of the day. And I ultimately decided to go with the one that I predicted. Yes, I'm talking about John Krasinski's next move after A Quiet Place. And he's already making it. Now, as you might recall, on Monday's Movie Math, I said that John Krasinski, despite all the talk about him being Mr. Fantastic, etc., what superhero comic book movie would he get? I said it was most likely that he would do another small movie. This guy's smart. He doesn't want to get ahead of himself. And that it would most likely be for Paramount as well. And that's exactly what has happened. But as I said, it's happened unusually quickly. Remember how long it took Jordan Peele to decide what his next step would be after Get Out? Well, Get Out had tremendous support because of the subject matter, not just from critics, but just from the media overall. So I think that Jordan Peele knew once the film didn't debut as big as A Quiet Place, but I think he knew he had some time, that film would have legs. But I think that Krasinski might be concerned about his second weekend drop, particularly going up against not just Rampage, but another horror movie, Truth or Dare. Some of you have asked if I'm going to review that. I'm seeing it tonight. My review will go up tomorrow. And you should never underestimate Jason Blum. So John Krasinski, I think he's revealing himself to be a very savvy person within the Hollywood machine. And I think he wanted that deal signed, or at least having it, start to be put together when he was still hot off of his surprise $50 million debut. Second biggest box office opening of the year. Will Rampage beat it? Again, he doesn't want that headline messing up his future. So what is he going to make? It's going to be called Life on Mars. Yes, another Mars movie. And he will direct and produce. He will not star, but perhaps he will have a supporting role again. And it's going to be for his banner, Sunday Night Productions. Remember that name. You'll probably be hearing it a lot from now on. Now, what is this? It's a short story that he found called We Have Always Lived on Mars, about an abandoned Martian colony. Something happens on Earth, and these people are stranded on Mars, right? And one of them, a woman, will be a female lead again. I think Emily Blunt was pretty much the female lead of A Quiet Place. And it said this woman discovers she can suddenly breathe the air on Mars and what that means for her and the rest of the colony. Great fit with A Quiet Place. It's a similar concept, a familiar but very different environment, survival, perhaps families again. I think it's very, very smart because it's like, hey, if you liked A Quiet Place, it stands to reason you would like Life on Mars because they're similar films. Perhaps we'll have a thriller element to it as well. At least the suspense of, will this, stop happening any moment? How does she discover she can breathe that air? Because obviously it's been a big no-no up until then. Very interesting indeed. And as this project continues to come together, it doesn't have a writer just yet. Krasinski has written before. He was one of the writers on A Quiet Place, but he helped do rewrites. So they might hire a writer to do the first pass or to put the whole thing, the first, I guess you could say shape it together, have it take form as a screenplay and flesh it out from a short story to a feature-length story. And then Krasinski can come in there with his critical eye and be like, this works, this doesn't, let's add this, and do a rewrite. So who will star? It's a female lead, and I think we're all wondering, will it be Emily Blunt again? Her husband did just give her the biggest box office opening of her own career, as we discussed also on Monday. I think, you might recall the story about A Quiet Place. She read the script that he was going to make, and she said, wow, this is amazing. I have to be in it. So maybe she's waiting to read this script as well. He's like, you still don't have faith in me after A Quiet Place? And she's like, let's not mess up the system that clearly works. All right. So that's the first story of the day. Now, the second story, a number of you tweeted me about both these stories, but this one I got more tweets about, and that's that Donnie Yen is a very busy man. So I myself tweeted out that his own tweet, that he's begun filming, I think it's Yip Man, right? That's how you pronounce it, Yip Man 4. I've seen all three movies. I think they're absolutely fantastic. They have kind of, I don't know if any of you have seen this, Bing Crosby used to play this priest, and Going My Way, and then The Bells of St. Mary's. Very good movies. And in fact, Going My Way was like a big Oscar contender and winner. And The Bells of St. Mary's, I believe, was the follow-up. The great film. The second one starred Ingrid Bergman. She's so good in it. But the reason I bring it up is that Donnie Yen in the Ip Man movies reminds me of kind of Bing Crosby in that role, right? He has it's a cozy factor to it. He just plays such a kind man who helps his community. It's great. And also the long robe that he wears is a little priest-like, right? It's black and everything. But then you just add martial arts to it all. And of course, also, Donnie Yen is playing a real-life figure. Great movies. If you haven't seen them, I highly recommend them. And now, in addition to that exciting upcoming project, he is back with Disney after his Rogue One pairing. And I have to say, I would have liked to have seen more Donnie Yen in Rogue One. I thought that he was underused, and it didn't even really help them that much in China, which they must be like, what? Because I was curious, because I was putting my notes together for this story, and The Force Awakens did like 124 or something in China, which is pretty good considering how the rest of the movies have done. Because Rogue One brought something just in the 60s in, so that's like half, right? So you're like, what the hell, Donnie Yen? And then The Last Jedi brought something in the 40s. So that's a sliding scale in the wrong direction for Star Wars in China. But I'm not going to blame Donnie Yen too much because, Star Wars is just not a brand that the Chinese like. They just aren't into it. But they, actually, I don't think they particularly, Black Panther started out well, fell away. Very particular tastes, as we've recently discussed on Movie Math as well. But anyway, overall, Donnie Yen is a very big star in Asia, so I think this is a casting coup for the movie. So who's he playing? You're probably like, what? It's like, is there a role worth Donnie Yen's time here? Well, they've made him a new one. He's playing Commander Tung, Mulan's mentor. And I don't know about you, but my first reaction was, does that mean there's no Li Shang? I mean, who knows? Maybe he's one of Tung's officers? Or will this Mulan not have any romance? No singing and no romance? It better have amazing battle sequences. Although I would love to be trained by Donnie Yen. Who wouldn't love to spend time with Donnie Yen? Again, as I said, he plays such nice characters, and he seems like a cool guy. I'm also wondering if his character will know Mulan's secret, and how much screen time will he end up having. But, I wanted to see live action Mulan anyway, but of course this just makes it an even sweeter prospect. I'm curious, were you on the fence? How do you feel about do you even know who Donnie Yen is? Just like Eugenio Derbez, who's a major star in his homeland of Mexico, these two guys have been trying so hard to break into the Hollywood market, and they're having mixed results. It's crazy. They're both so talented. All right, so that's the second story of the day. Now, the third, Jason Bourne fans, is I've got news for you. And that is that the franchise is potentially heading to the small screen because the USA Network, just ordered a pilot called Treadstone. And perhaps they're doing that because, of course, John Krasinski has his Jack Ryan series debuting later this summer, I believe in August, on Amazon. Now, at first, you might have a big reaction day. So my first reaction, just like with Donnie Yen for Mulan, my first reaction to this was, the USA Network, they're good. They have some popular stuff, Suits, Mr. Robot, etc. But, this is a very different animal. And you're like, can USA do this well, right? But then I started to look into it, and this sounds pretty good, actually. So allow me to share. So this Treadstone will explore both the origin and present-day operations of the CIA Black Ops program that creates almost superhuman assassins. Which also, by the way, don't need a lot of money to portray because they don't actually have superpowers, just very well choreographed fight sequences. So this is doable on a TV level. The series will follow sleeper agents who are mysteriously awakened across the globe to resume their deadly mission. So that kind of has a long kiss goodnight vibe to it as well. Great movie by Shane Black. Nobody went to see it though. It actually put his career into a coma for a while, unfortunately, until it woke up with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and then ultimately Iron Man 3, which kind of has had problems. It's been wavering. He then did Nice Guys, and he has the upcoming Predator, which I'm very excited about. But anyway, Long Kiss Goodnight stars Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson, and it's good stuff. And Shane Black wrote it, did not direct. I think it's directed by Rennie Harlan, if I recall correctly. Anyway, I would love to see different types of Jason Bourne type characters, different ethnicities, genders, nationalities, a global series. I think that would be a lot of fun. So I'd be really into that, actually. Now, the two people behind the camera, you have Tim Kring from Heroes. Heroes was so good when it started, but it just went off the rails and just became so ordinary that I question anybody who comes from that team. But the pilot will be directed by Ramin Bahrani, who's also an executive producer on the series. And this guy I'm a huge fan of. Now, I discovered him when I saw At Any Price, which starred Dennis Quaid and Zac Efron, and also where I first saw Maika Monroe, who went on to do It Follows. It's a very good movie. I highly recommend it. I'm recommending everything I'm about to mention right now, okay? So, because Ramin Bahrani, I truly believe, is a talent to watch. It's been a long road for him, but I think things might finally be starting to pan out. So he followed that up with 99 Homes, which starred Michael Shannon and Andrew Garfield. You, at least I'm sure, saw the trailer for that. That's also a very solid film. Not quite as good as At Any Price. That really, I liked that movie in particular because it focused on one of my favorite sayings, evolve or die, and it was great. But anyway, 99 Homes. And then he also has Fahrenheit 451 coming up for HBO, where he reteams with Michael Shannon, but also, of course, Michael B. Jordan co-stars, and that's coming out pretty soon. So that's very exciting. So I think Ramin Bahrani handling this, I have a lot more faith in it. So this sounds pretty good. So let's see if it makes it past the pilot stage. When you order a show to pilot, it's like you want to see it. You're like, okay, it looks good on paper, but let's see this thing. But that doesn't mean you're going to necessarily greenlight it to a first season. However, once a pilot is made and a network passes, then the production company can shop that pilot around to other networks. You recently heard that happen with the second attempt or third attempt at Lock and Key, where Hulu passed. Hulu passed! But if somebody passes, you can take this around. And this sounds, again, pretty darn good. Would you watch it? I would. And let's see how Jack Ryan turns out as well. So those are today's three stories. The viewer question comes from Tomas Clark. And Tomas said, viewer question, Grace, when do you think this Aquaman trailer will come out? Great question. Now, James Wan has already commented on this and said, I know a number of you are wondering, why haven't we seen an Aquaman trailer? But I want to make sure that the VFX are just perfect, because he knows everyone's going to go through this frame by frame. And of course, he knows it'll be under extra levels of scrutiny, not only because it's a superhero movie, but because it's a DCEU one. So I believe this trailer, I thought it might come out with Rampage, which is also from Warner Brothers, but you can see, I think Rampage got hit with a very unfair Rotten Tomatoes score, but I don't think they didn't want to risk Aquaman being associated with that. They put the Meg with Rampage, which is a very similar movie, and so that makes sense. But if you look at Warner Brothers' upcoming slate, they don't really have any big movies until the fall, and that's too late to promote Aquaman, which comes out in December. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. So I believe that Aquaman's first trailer will hit with one of the first three big movies of the summer, either Avengers Infinity War, Deadpool 2, which I think it's a very good fit with, Jason Momoa, or Solo, A Star Wars Story. But here's my thing. I've been thinking about Aquaman, and I feel its release date is absolutely horrible. I feel that Warner Brothers should move this thing. I just don't see it succeeding when it comes out on December 21st. Because first off, just overall, is Christmas really a holiday that audiences are going to want to spend with Jason Momoa? I just don't see it. He doesn't have that cozy factor. Jumanji did well, but that was that was a family movie. Maybe it could follow the Jumanji model now that I come to think of it. Let's see. But Jumanji was a very well-made film, a surprisingly well-made film, and it had a great ensemble cast. Let's see how Aquaman looks. But Aquaman has so much competition with films that I think are so much more holiday friendly. The weekend before, Miles Morales will hit theaters, animated. I think that's going to be a really big deal. Then the week of, Alita Battle Angel moved to this weekend, so Fox, thanks a lot, right? So I think that's major competition. And also the new Sherlock Holmes comedy, Holmes and Watson, with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, comes out that same weekend. That's going to be very strong competition. And then they're going to get hit with Mary Poppins Returns on Christmas Day. And then also, let's not forget all of our holdovers from November, which are hoping to play it throughout the entire holiday season. You've got Nutcracker in the Four Realms, The Animated Grinch, Sony's new Girl in the Spider's Web with Claire Foy, Fantastic Beasts 2, Crimes of Grindelwald, Viola Davis and her thriller Widows, where she plays this woman who tries to complete her husband's big score. Creed 2, Michael B. Jordan, huge star after Black Panther. Let's see if there's a Black Panther effect for that film. That first film was very well received as well. Then Ralph Breaks the Internet, of course, Wreck-It Ralph 2, and the new Robin Hood from Lionsgate starring Taron Egerton, Jamie Foxx, and Ben Mendelsohn. All of those films, that is a ridiculously crowded season, by the way. Don't be surprised if some of those movies maybe move. But that's nuts, and I think Aquaman is going to have it's going to have to be perfect to be able to compete in that very crowded marketplace. Whoa. Aquaman is so obviously a summer movie to me because it's, it's undersea, underwater. It's Jason Momoa. It's all these people running around like, they have heavy, long suits of armor on sometimes, but also, swim season. So we'll see. I don't know, but I'm curious. What do you think of Aquaman's chances, considering what's coming out around it and the holiday? Would you want to spend Christmas with Jason Momoa? Okay, well, those are your other options. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. That's today's morning movie news. Please write your thoughts down below, as well as any other stories you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and of course, any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.